Hey GX community, this is GXBOB to showcase to you guys another video on the basic understanding of electrical work on our SUVs, okay? So all the connectors that you see today, all the tools that you see, and all the switches that you see are all the stuff that I use on my truck when I do all these installations. Okay, so if you guys do see things that are missing, it's because I rarely use it. If you guys have a better way of doing stuff, then fine, that's great. I'm just going to do the bare basics, meaning I'm not going to showcase relays, I'm not going to showcase diodes, I'm not going to do any trick work. I'm going to just pretty much give you the basics to install a light, to install a horn, to do electrical work for that person watching right now that is not mechanically inclined, that spent 7 years in community college like I did. This is for you, okay? So let's get started. The types of tools I use the most for all my electrical work are wire cutters. These are really good at stripping the shielding off wires in order to expose the wire. These are my Klein crimpers. These smashes connectors. This is my wire insertion tool. This allows me to insert wires through my firewall. I always use electrical tape to make my final connection. And I always use a test light. This is a test light that I typically use. I like this because the ends hook up to the battery, and this side, whatever you probe to, it will tell you if it's a positive or ground. Here you're going to see the connectors that I used, and they're all separated in colors. The important colors for this video is red for small gauge wires, medium, which is blue, for medium-sized wires, and then you have yellow, which is for larger gauge wires. If you guys don't know the difference between small, medium, and large, let me give you an example. Here is a small wire that we can use for certain applications. Here is a medium wire. See, it's a little thicker in diameter. And here is a large gauge wire, usually with speakers, you know, if you're doing audio, they're thicker, so you use the yellow. Now that we have separated the size in different colors, red being small, blue being medium, yellow being large, we're going to show you which connector does what and for what type of application. The first row right here, these are called butt connectors, B-U-T-T. This column right here, these are called male connectors. If you look closely, inside, male connectors have a spade. These spades insert into a female connector or into a T-tap. This third column, these are called T-taps. They clamp onto wires. This last column are called fork connectors. Fork connectors. Butt connectors allow me to connect two individual wires together. Let's go ahead and choose a butt connector for these speaker wires. Since these are large gauge speaker wires, I am going to use yellow. We're going to want to use our wire cutter and take off the shielding of one end of the wires so the wire is exposed. We're going to take the butt connector, we're going to slide it through. We're going to take our crimper. Our crimper has teeth right in the middle, right there. We're going to take the largest tooth, and we're going to smash it onto our butt connector. When I'm done smashing it, I normally go to the next diameter, the smaller one, and smash it one more time just to secure it. Now I do the pull test to make sure it doesn't come off. It was a good smash. Now I'm going to take the end of the other wire that I want to connect to that butt connector. I will take the shielding off using my wire cutter. Do not cut all the way through, just cut off the shielding and then slide it out using your thumb to push off. Once you push it off, the wire is exposed. Once the wire is exposed, you want to slip it on to the other end of the butt connector, slide it in, hold it, use your crimper, and smash the butt connector. Go to the next diameter and smash it one more time to get a secure smash. The aluminum barrel that is inside this plastic cover is smashed onto the wire itself. You do the pull test, and now you have one full wire that are connected to each other. Inside each butt connector is an aluminum barrel. If I remove the insulation off of each butt connector, you're going to see this. It's just a metal aluminum barrel where the wire goes through and gets clamped on. So let's go ahead and take a wire and let me show you how it looks like without the insulation. If I was to take a power line right here, a small gauge power line, and I would slip it through a butt connector, I would put the wire part of the butt connector inside without making the insulated shield part go inside. Stop right there. I would take my crimpers and I would crush it. I would go to the next one and I would crush it again. And it would look just like this inside the insulation. Next, we're going to give a demonstration of our male connectors. With our male connectors, they work in correlation with our T-taps. Let's imagine you have your power cable inside your truck. This is the power line feeding power through this wire. You want to hook up an aftermarket fog light onto that wire. So you're going to need to connect this fog light to that wire somehow. What you would do is you would take this wire and you would strip the shielding. You would add your male connector. You take your crimper and you smash it really good. Go to the next diameter and smash it again. Do the pull test to make sure it doesn't come out. Now you have a way to insert this male connector into this power line. Now you're going to find the female connector, which is this T-tap. You're going to find the T-tap. You're going to make a slit inside your shielding just so the wire is exposed. You would take your cutters right here and you would just splice around the shielding just to expose the wire without cutting into the wire. You would take your T-tap. Your T-tap has a teeth right there. You would take that and cut it into your exposed wire, just like that. Now you take the top shell and you clamp it down. You would take a pair of pliers and you would help it along. Lock it into place. There you go. Now this is a female insert for your male connector. If you take your male connector right there, you would take this insert, this spade, and you connect it into your female. You lock it into place. Now your fog light is connected to this power line as a three-way. You remove the insulation off the male connector. This is what you see on the inside. It's just a male spade with the barrel, aluminum barrel. So let's go ahead and show you what it looks like when I smash into this. Let's use a ground wire to demonstrate. I'm going to go ahead and put the wire part inside the barrel and stop right at the shielding. I'm going to clamp down onto it. I'm going to go to the next diameter of my crimper and clamp down onto it. And this is what it's going to look like inside of your insulation. If we were to take the metal portion out of the insulation of a T-tap, it would look like this. The wire portion would go and clamp into this portion right here on top, and this alligator side over here would get a male connector to clamp in, just like this. See the male spade of the connector? It would go in right in here. This next connector is called a fork connector. This allows me to route my wire to any fastener or to any bolt without having to remove the fastener or bolt. So let's go ahead and attach a ground wire to my truck. Since I'm using a large gauge wire, I'm going to use a yellow fork connector. Let's go ahead and smash it. Now let's go connect this to ground. Here's a perfect ground bolt I can use. Let's go ahead and loosen it. I want to loosen it enough where I can place my fork connector underneath the head. Typically, I would go underneath the washer, slide it into place, and now I would lock it into place by tightening it. And now I have a ground connection without having to remove the bolt. This is what a fork connector is good for. Every accessory that you're going to install on your vehicle, 99% of the time, the colors are always going to be coded the same. Black is always going to be for ground, red will always be for power, yellow will always be for ignition. Ignition only powers up your accessory when the key is turned on. Whenever I'm done with a crimp, I always like to use 3M black electrical tape, and I would like to secure this crimp right here, going from the butt connector and wrap it around all the way till secure tape overlap itself. I do this as a backup to make sure the wire doesn't come loose from the butt connector. I love using these type of test probes because it takes the guesswork out of finding positive and ground. It's very simple. We take the alligator clips and we hook it up black to ground, red to positive, and no matter where we probe this to, it will tell us if we have positive and ground. Let's go ahead and test this to positive. As you can see, the red light, it tells me that this probe is touching positive. As you see, this light is telling us we are touching the ground portion of the battery. Whenever we talk about firewall, we're talking about this piece of metal wall that separates the engine from your driver's cabin. This right here. Whenever we discuss the rubber boot inside your firewall, we're talking about this rubber boot that runs your main harness from your engine compartment into your footwell of your driver's cabin. Next, we are going to talk about the wire insertion tool. The wire insertion tool is a great tool in the event that you want to run wires from your engine compartment into your driver's cabin. The firewall separates your engine compartment and the driver's cabin. The only way to get through a wire from the engine compartment to the driver's cabin is through the rubber boot. We're going to use this as an example of the rubber boot inside your firewall. If I was to run a wire from here to over here, I would use an insertion tool with this sharp pointy edge, and I would stay away from the main harness right in the center of OEM, the main harness. I would go to the side right here, and I would use my insertion tool and I would poke a hole through the rubber. After I poke a hole through the rubber, I would take my accessory wire or any wire that I want to run through the firewall, and I would go through the hole that is inside my insertion tool handle. It would go out through the other end. I'm going to go to my driver's cabin and pull on it. Not all the way, because we want to leave wire to our accessories inside the engine compartment. Once I have enough wire going into the driver's cabin, I am going to want to take my insertion tool back out of the rubber boot. Once I remove the insertion tool, now I have my wires going from the engine compartment to the driver's cabin without drilling any holes through the firewall. All accessories have a power and ground in order for it to operate. We could use a light, we could use a horn, we could use anything, but any accessory that you install has a power and ground. We will use this light for example. Let's go ahead and hook this to a ground, to the battery. go ahead and hook this side up to the positive side of the battery. When I hook up positive and ground, my light turns on. But if we're going to hook up something like this to a vehicle, we do not want it to stay on. So we're going to add a switch in between the positive line. So let's go ahead and disconnect the positive side, and we are going to add a switch in between the battery and the positive of this accessory. I like to show you two types of switches. One is an on and off switch. When you turn it on, the light turns on. When you turn it off, the light turns off. It disconnects the battery from the light itself when you turn it off. When you turn it on, it sends power through the switch and into the light. Another type of switch is called a momentary switch, or a push button switch. Whenever I push down, the light will turn on, but when I release my finger, the light will turn off. So this is just a momentary switch. It only works when this button is pushed down. So let's go ahead and try both. First, I'm going to disconnect the power off my accessory. I'm going to take one side of my push button switch and hook it up to the light, power, and the other end of the push button switch, I am going to hook it up to the battery. Now if I push on this button, this light should turn on. On, off, on, off, on, off. Another popular type of switch is the on and off switch. Let's go ahead and install this. I'm going to take one side of the on and off switch, and I am going to hook it up to the battery. On the other side, I'm going to hook it up to the positive line of the light. Since the switch is in the off position, there is no current from the battery going to the light. But once I flip it on, the light should turn on. Some of you guys wanted to take a look at my electrical tools, and here it is. Before I even open this up, these are my two best friends. I use these for every single job, every electrical job I have ever done. Let's go ahead and open this up. You take a look right offhand, you see all the colorful connectors, T-taps, male connectors, butt connectors. I always carry a good stock of these. I have female connectors right here. I have tap screws. These type of screws, if you have a drill motor, they drill right into metal really well. And I use these to place my ground wires into the metal if I can't find a bolt that is accessible. I have a bunch of relays here. For this video, we're not going to get into relays. This gets a little more complicated if you start wanting to do electrical tricks to your car. I got lots of switches. I got switches. I have in here, I got a lot of hood pins. These are really good if you want to hook up any of your wiring or your trick work to your back tailgate or your hood or your doors. Meaning, if I close my door or any opening, I will disconnect this metal from the ground because I'm going to drill this portion to the car. Here's the car. I'm going to drill a hole into the car and screw this on. And here's the metal of my car. So if my door is closed, this portion right here will be disengaged from the ground. But if somebody decides to open up my hood, boop, this portion right here will touch my ground and it will set off my alarm system. So you could do a lot of electrical work using this push pin. Okay, there are different types of push pins. This type right here that uses bullet connectors. There's just so many different types of connectors, but I kind of showed you guys the most general connectors that I mostly use. Okay, and I got more switches right here. I always have a whole bunch of fuses. Okay, let's go to the next compartment. Underneath right here, I got my test probe. I got a whole case of razor blades. These are really good for cutting through loom and electrical tape inside your OEM car. I have a bag of diodes. Diodes are wonderful if you understand the basics of how electrical current works in your vehicle. You could use this to do a lot of trick work in your electrical system. I always have fuse add-ons because whenever you hook up power to anything, you always want to protect the line with the fuse so you don't blow up your car one day. I always have loads and loads of tie wrap, zip ties. These are super handy. I always buy hundreds at a time, okay? I usually go to downtown LA to pick these things up. 100 of them is for like 10 bucks, okay? I always use 3M electrical tape. These secure my connections as backup. I always have a plastic trim removal tool. These come in very handy because you have to pop off panels all the time. Here are more diodes, but bigger sizes. And that's mainly about it. So before we conclude this video, I wanted to go over some emails and answer some questions for you guys that you guys had. I'm going to go over the questions that I received the most. Okay, so one of them was remote engine starts. There is a product online right now, MCS remote engine starts for the GX460. I've looked into it, and I'm going to tell you one, the reason why I won't install it. If I wanted to warm up my car in the morning, if I wanted to turn on my AC in the dead of heat before I even come out to the car, I would have to use my key fob and turn it on. So that is not a good thing if your key fob doesn't have that good of reception. People like me who have really long driveways and our vehicles are like a quarter mile away from our front door, we would have to walk around the house and try to push this key fob just to see if our lights turn on. That's not a good thing. The only way I could turn on my engine start is if I walk halfway out to my car and turn it on. I'm in my pajamas with my coffee and my bunny slippers, and that defeats the whole purpose of staying in your bed and warming up your car. And that's why a remote engine start doesn't work for people that have long driveways or park far away from their vehicles. Remote engine starts are good if the system comes with their own key fob, because their own key fobs, such as Viper, have quarter-mile ranges, half-mile ranges with mini antennas on them, and they also have an antenna you install in your vehicle. So you could be standing really far away and start your motor without even, dealing with walking outside of your front door in the snow. MCS, factory key fob, walk outside until you get reception. Once you get reception, make sure your engine started. Then you can walk back in the house. Your key fob doesn't notify you through, through a digital screen telling you that your engine started like Viper does. So I'm not trying to promote Viper. I just have more experience with Viper systems, and that's why I can make that fair comparison. The next question, are there any installation do-overs I would reconsider, because I've had a lot of systems installed already, a lot of lights installed already, a lot of stuff installed already, and after a few months or after a year or so, is there anything that I regret? Is there anything that failed? Yeah, the Night Rider scanner I installed on behind my grill, that really long one that goes back and forth like that show Night Rider, that failed. It failed because it got waterlogged. It doesn't last too good in the rain. I even took it off and I taped it with clear tape, and water still seeped through, and that just failed. So I had to remove that. That wasn't good. Another one was my grill, my front grill. When I put it back, I failed to realize that I have a support beam right behind the grill that is white. So once I put my bumper back on, you could totally see the white, and it was too late. I already installed the grill, and I was just too lazy to pull the grill off. So before you do a grill modification or you change your 2015 to 16, 17, and you change it to a 2020 grill, make sure you match your support beams with the color of your grill, which is dark gray or black. Another do-over, my wind visor, my sunroof visor on the top, it did finally come off, and it came off in a car wash. Even though I used really good preparation and I used 3M tape, which is the best in my opinion, it still eventually came off after a few months. Okay, what else? Ah, the clear backup lights in my bumper that I cut out to make clear. I do regret doing that because it didn't come out as clean as I thought it would. If you look up closely, you're going to see all the flaws, but if you stand back, it looks clear with the black housing and it looks okay. I just don't like the way it looks when you walk up close to it. What else? What else? Here's another question. Do I have TikTok, Instagram, or any other social media besides YouTube? Yes, I do. This is where I vent off to do my silly stuff, to do my family stuff, to do my, outdoorsy stuff with my boats and my RVs. Yes, I do. I keep my YouTube one specifically for working on the car. So yeah, so I do have other social media. Do I have any, what are my other future videos coming up? And you guys did have a list of a lot of stuff that you guys want done. One of them, I'm going to do the shark fin that's on top of the vehicle. A lot of you guys are going through really low parking structures and tearing that thing up. You guys want to know how to remove and install a brand new one. That shouldn't be too hard. I have a wireless dash cam coming up by Dongar Corporation. I have CarPlay that I'm going to be installing very, very, very soon. I have fog lights, front fog lights that I'm going to be wiring, doing trick wiring, not just regular wiring. Okay, do some trick wiring using my aux beam fuse panel. Also, I am going to be installing a roof rack, one of those Prinsu type roof racks that you guys are always seeing that are about $1,000. I'm not paying $1,000 for a roof rack. I'm probably going to pick one up from Alibaba, which is about $300, and I'm going to do the comparison. I'm going to see if they're all right, if they're built with quality, if they're made from the same material, how's the fitment, the brackets, are they weatherproof, are they going to rust in the end? I don't know. I just want something that's going to be as comparable without breaking the bank. So that's another video I'm going to do. Another good video that I am contemplating on doing are rear drum brakes for my vehicle. I not only want to just change the brake pads or change the rotors, I am going to do one about brake rotors. I'm going to do one about steering wheel shutter. But most importantly, it's going to lead to my rear emergency drum brakes. I'm going to probably replace all the hardware behind there also. I know that's not a very popular item for people to remove and replace because I haven't seen any content on that. That was specific to the GX460, that is. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember, this is basic electrical, and I didn't want to get too far into any fancy relays or diode work because that would just take up a whole entire other video in which I will probably do a part 2 on. But yeah, that's it. Basic electrical. Thanks for watching, guys.